All right, so let's talk about this UConn team because it feels like UConn fans have had a little bit of angst. I don't know if it's because it's the
Yeah.
first time they've been this good in a while or what, but the loss to West Virginia seemed to rile a lot of people up. Some of their execution in late games down the stretch, but let's first and foremost, um, you watch a bunch of games to prepare for this. What's your overall takeaway of this UConn team?
Overall takeaway is they're the type of team that just plays very well. Like there's a lot of teams out there. College basketball is an interesting thing because so much of it's execution, right? It's almost too structured. And some of the teams struggle because of that structure, right? They think too much. They don't know how to read and react. They don't know how to play with one another, let alone off one another. It's really more about the structure. They're not limited by that. This is a team that really goes out and knows how to just play. And the good thing is they have a ton of playmakers, right? They have 10, 11, 12 guys that can all make plays. And guys like Jordan Hawkins are only going to get better and better. So I would be as nice to that kid as possible if I'm a UConn fan base, because please believe he's going to be your star going forward. And he just needs a little love right now because confidence is lacking. You add him to a mix of guys that can all make plays. And when I say make plays, it's not just like I can beat a guy to the basket and score. Playmaking is all the things that happen beneath the surface, right? Playmaking is a rotation. It's communicating to move a guy in position to be able to stop a play that leads to a run out and a layup. Like there's a lot of guys there that can make plays, shot blockers like a Cook and Sonogo, like and Tyrese Martin and Andre Jackson. I mean, there's a lot of guys I can add in there. There's so many guys here I could talk about um, that can make plays. Their only issue to me when I watch all these games is at times they need to be a little bit more calculated, not structured. They need to explore things a little bit more. So what I saw in some of the previous games, I saw a little bit of in the game I just called, and that was maybe looking at a ball screen and not re-exploring it. Right. There were a few times where I was like, RJ Cole's in a great ball screen situation. They're setting the screen, defenders dragging with him, two are going with the ball, yet you didn't go back to it. So I think there are times where that just play part of it needs to be scaled back a little bit and look a little bit more calculated at times, because that's the only way they're going to reach their potential, because that's the only way you're going to beat some of the best in the country. So I think they're there. I think the pieces are there. But sometimes you've got to scale back a little bit. And I think Dan Hurley's got to do that a little bit too because of his intensity.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a team with great potential and may need to scale back that intensity, scale back that just play component, and really start to explore options on the floor, which are going to make them better and more adaptable going forward, not just in conference, but beyond.
Yeah, the big frustrating thing for me are the little mistakes in transition situations
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
you'll have a pass that goes over RJ Cole's head, or you'll have Andre Jackson not throw a bounce pass when he has a 3-on-1 break that leads to a turnover instead of getting a layup. And I think that so much of this team, they're built around this idea that they're going to defend, they're going to force turnovers, they're going to get stuff in transition. And when you play in the half court, we're going to do just well enough to be able to win games. And when you take away those 4, 6, 8 points because of sloppy turnovers in transition, like to me, that's the margin of error from being a good team that can win a game in the tournament to being a team that, maybe they got a chance to make a run at the Big East title this season. So it's those little sloppy things that can get cleaned up with coaching, with film, with better decision making. To me, that's the difference between UConn being good and UConn being great.
Well, there's something I write down. I write all these random things down when I'm watching games, and most people think like your notes are like, stats or tendencies. The things I write down are, some people may think are nonsensical, but I'm telling you, they make sense because they're so far beneath the surface that if you really understand it, it impacts many other things that eventually show up on the surface. And one thing I wrote down was tempered intensity, like tempered intensity, meaning you can't lose your intensity, but you've really got to temper it a bit and really control it, because that's what leads to some of those silly plays where they're just moving too fast, not thinking enough, but trying really hard, right? Like, and you see that's a reflection of your coach, which is great. But there are times where you have to temper and really guide that intensity into, I hate to say execution, because execution is like such an archaic term in the game now, right? We say execution and we think that means a down screen into a ball screen, into a flare, and then you score. Like, that's not how the freaking game works, man. Like execution is read and react. Execution is calculation, setting a guy up, bringing defense with you to move the basketball, to get into the paint and kick out. Like, execution is the hockey assist, right? It's not the drive and kick. There's more to the game nowadays. So I think you really have to temper that intensity to feel the game out a little bit more. And the more they feel the game out, the more they're going to realize they just raised their ceiling. There are teams out there that, and St. Bonaventure's is a good example of this. They play 5 guys. Kyle Lofton was out, and that would have made the game a lot different. Those 5 dudes play 30 minutes or more. The first 10 minutes of the game are pretty chill because they know they're going to play the entire game. And the most important thing they can do, because they're like a bunch of veterans, the most important thing they can do is feel out the game. They spend the first 5-10 minutes feeling out the game, and then they turn it on because they understand the rhythm of the game. They understand how this game's being played and where their options are going to be. I think UConn needs to find a little of that. Even though they're deep and can go intense for 40 minutes, like, wild balls to the wall intensity is not going to win you against the best teams in the country. And I think that's where they really can improve. And if they do, I'm telling you, that ceiling just gets higher and higher and higher. And they are up there with the likes of Baylor and Purdue and Duke and UC. I'm telling you, they're up there because of the personnel. But they just need to settle it down a bit.
I made the argument after news came out that Tyrese was going to be out for 2 to 4 weeks and Adama was going to be out for a while, that this could end up being a good thing long.
Absolutely.
Because, and I think we saw it, you mentioned the Cook earlier. I think we saw it specifically with him in that you're kind of getting him going again, right? You have to, you're throwing him in the fire. This is a dude, 5-star recruit, tore his Achilles. It's taken him a little while to kind of get going, but we saw a guy making threes. We saw a guy blocking shots from the weak side. I thought he was as active as he's been. He looked as confident as he's been, and kind of getting him to the point where he can play the 5 if you need him to. You could play him alongside Adama if you need him to. You could put him and Isaiah Whaley out there together. Like, that, to me, changes what this kind of team can look like, right?
Yeah. So I don't know what's our rating on this podcast. Is there like a PG-13?
No,
like, what's all right? So it's not even about cussing. I don't want to be inappropriate by accident. So I wrote something down during the game, and it was to my partner, Kevin Brown. I just kind of wrote it down because it was a thought, and I need to get my thoughts out during the game. And I obviously can't say this stuff on air. And what I said was, a cook is getting his balls back. That was what I said. That was my thought. I was like, he's getting his balls back. And some people may be like, that's not right to say. I'm like, no, you got to think about what he's been through. When you go through an injury like that, it's more of an emotional thing. It's more of a mental thing going forward, right? Emotionally, it drains you. Mentally, you're not sure if you're really able to come back. The more he was able to make plays, the more he was able to hit the floor, maybe like he went up for a block shot and came down awkwardly. Those things all help you get your balls back.
It's confidence in your body. Is knowing
that's
things again,
right? It's I feel like I can do this. And what I saw from him, up until pretty much St. Bonaventure, was he's just unsure. Mm-hmm. And I get why. When you tear your Achilles, man, that messes with you mentally. And I just think the last game, because Sanogo's out, we all think of, like, I always say this, and people need to think more about it when I say it. We think of playing time as opportunity. Playing time's responsibility. It's not opportunity, right? If you say playing time's opportunity, then you're a selfish fool and you're not going to serve it well. Playing time is responsibility. It is, you have the responsibility to serve your team on the floor. You have this responsibility to play a role. And what happened when the cook had to step in for Sanogo is he had the responsibility to be freaking a cook again. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, was significant, where he had, again, not the opportunity, the responsibility to be who he was before he got hurt. And he did it. I mean, I'm telling you, he looked good. His shot looked good. He was contesting shots. He was much more active defensively. And you could tell, because sometimes guys who deal with injury, they get inside themselves and they never get out. He finally started to get out, right? Communicating, less consumed with what I'm dealing with. Again, and that's subconscious too, right? When you have an injury like that, it's not a conscious thought. It's your subconscious just telling you, hold back, make sure you're good. I saw him get his balls back. And I think that's going to be good for them going forward. So that's where that positive of Tyrese Martin and Adama Sanogo being out. I mean, look, it's that. I don't know what the term is. What's the term there? When it's the
silver lining.
Yeah, silver lining. That's right. Unexpected benefit, silver lining. Look, it's there, but the challenge is going to be what you do with all these guys that expect to play. That's the more money, more problems isn't easy.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, if you have they're basically playing 7 guys right now, right? So if you're going 8 to 9 deep and you're getting all of these guys 15 to 20 minutes minimum, I think that should be enough, especially if it's the kind of thing where, all right, Tyler Polley comes in, bangs 3 threes in the first half, right? Well, yeah, he's going to play 30 minutes in that game. He comes in, puts up a couple air balls, throws one off the backboard, then all right, he's not playing. Like it's I think it's one of those things where you can kind of ride the hot hand a little bit. And if you have guys that understand or are bought in and are good teammates and value this concept of the whole is greater than me getting my minutes, right? Or me getting my shots, then I think you're good to go.
It's hard though. So here's why it's hard. That has to start months ago. Mm-hmm. Like that has to start in I don't know when these dudes get on campus anymore, like freaking last May. Like it's like everything changes. That needs to start then. And what you need to establish is that we have a deep team, and on any given night, it might be your night. If it's not, don't sweat it. Like Jordan Hawkins to me should be Jamal Crawford as a freshman, because if you go play great, I'm going to make you a star. If you don't play well, don't sweat it. Get the next one. Like maybe he plays 10 minutes some games. Maybe he plays 25 if he's feeling it. That's how you build that confidence. So I would pick 1 or 2 dudes like a Jordan Hawkins, even Andre Jackson. Like he's a guy who could be great, and then at times be like, dude, just take a breath, which is funny. That's what people say to me half the time on Twitter. It's like, Crispin, take a breath. It's like, sorry, I'm excited. I get amped about this stuff.
The jersey in you, man. There's nothing you can do.
I got so much to say, and I only work 5 months out of the year. Like I came out of hibernation to what? Take a breath? No. So like they have guys that could be great in a short period of time, and you say maybe let's ride that wave, but no sweat. When Tyrese Martin's back, with Adama Sanogo's back, no sweat saying, all right, Andre Jackson, not your night, dude, and it's okay. But you have to do that early because they need to understand and see the consistency in that, right? These kids come in and their identity is so tied to who they are on the basketball court and how they look when they play. Like Jordan Hawkins, you could feel it, man. I feel it. I said in the game, I want to give him a shot of fearlessness and confidence because he's really freaking good, but he's just unsure of it yet. And it's not that he's unsure of his abilities.
He doesn't know how good he can be.
That's all part of it.
But my biggest take is that he needs to get in the gym, work on that core strength. He needs to get in the gym and put on like 15 pounds of muscle. He needs to get in the gym and spend an entire summer doing nothing but 2-ball dribbling drills, right? Like handle just isn't quite tight enough. And he's just not quite strong enough to be able to handle, a Big East guard bumping him off his spot from getting where he wants to go.
But he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to right now. He just needs to go play and learn how to play this game at this level because he's not who he's going to be now, right? And no one really is. But I think there are some guys that you look at and physically you say, he's ready. In so many ways, he's ready. This is a kid who is going to be completely different in a year. But you can't sacrifice this year trying to get points. You can't sacrifice this year trying to just go be effective. Dude, go learn how to play at this level because it's going to make you 10 times better tomorrow. The problem is, again, young kid, your identity is so wrapped up in who people think you are, whether people think you're good. And you can see it and feel it in him. And that's what I just want. I wish I could tell him that was me as a freshman in so many ways. And, I was scoring 10, 11 points a game in the Big Ten my freshman year. And I thought I stunk. Like, what's wrong with you, man? Like, I wish he could just get confident